First day on the road from Monterrey to Mexico City. Pretty anxious to get out there, but looking forward to it. After taking a week off in Monterrey for Christmas, our trip through Mexico was properly beginning, starting with a ride out of the city through some quiet residential streets and colourful markets. Our route through Mexico took us up into the mountains and right down the middle of the country, and was carefully planned to avoid more dangerous areas. So we're just making our way out of the city of Monterrey now. First day riding in Mexico as we head down towards Mexico City. Should take us about a month. Always a bit daunting and anxious on the first day in a new country, but looking forward to seeing what this beautiful country has to offer. It didn't take long for the anxiety to wear off, and pretty soon we were riding up into the mountains and making new friends along the way. We spent our first night camped in an abandoned building, which didn't look too inviting, but was cosy enough nonetheless. So this is where we spent camped night one on the road in Mexico. Little abandoned building by the highway. Not the best place we've ever slept, but also not the worst. But you do what you gotta do. Looking forward to somewhere better tonight. I'd clearly not slept too well in our abandoned building campsite, but felt a lot better after we had a delicious breakfast of huevos rancheros. And tonight we were looking forward to a warm bed as we had lined up a night's accommodation with a host family in the town of Saltillo. It was a great night of being taught how to make proper Mexican tortillas, as well as being fed all the tamales we could eat, and just generally enjoying hanging out with some awesome people. Day 3, we're riding uphill at about 2,000 metres now. By the end of the day we should get to the top of the hill and finally get some downhill. You. Although the weather was sunny and dry, because we'd climbed to over 2,000 metres, it was pretty cold overnight, getting down to almost freezing. So a warm bed in a cheap hotel was a welcome sight at the end of the day. At around $20 a night, hotels are pretty affordable in this part of Mexico, but we still didn't fork out the extra $5 for hot water. The next day we decided we'd give camping another go, and after a long day in the saddle, pulled up to a small shop and asked if we could camp behind their store. Then to our surprise and delight, they told us to not bother with our tent as they had a spare room in their house they would happily let us sleep in for the night. Just on the way to Matajuela today. We had a really nice sleep last night in a bedroom at someone's house. We asked the local tienda if we could camp outside their shop, and they ended up inviting us in, which was super nice of them. So a good sleep, especially as it's getting pretty cold overnight, about 3 or 4 degrees. And now we're back out on the highway. Finally got some downhill, nice smooth shoulder, nice scenery, and a beautiful day. We were finding the main roads in Mexico were pretty good riding so far, with a nice wide shoulder and not too much traffic, but we'd occasionally take detours onto smaller, quieter roads when we could. There were always plenty of places to stop for a roadside lunch or a shady spot for a cold drink. And before long, we were feeling more adventurous and starting to take some pretty rugged roads through some tough but beautiful countryside, leading us to places we never thought we'd end up in, like the night we slept in this old mezcal distillery. This part of Mexico felt like the true Wild West, with locals riding horses, cactus growing everywhere, and donkeys roaming freely between the small dusty towns. Despite the very slow progress along these bumpy trails, we rode along with smiles ear to ear, so glad that bike touring takes us to places like this. Most days, we'd be happy to make it back to some smooth tarmac and a comfortable bed in a hotel to finish the day, because even without camping and riding trails, riding through the Mexican mountains was tiring work. Most times we ended up on rough, bumpy trails. It was because we made a decision to be on them, in search of a bit more adventure. But sometimes we just got plain lost. The road started out pretty nice this morning and then got slowly worse. We had decided to take the inland route through the mountains because we liked the landscape it would deliver, as well as having a much more comfortable climate to ride in than on the coast. And also it took us to many charming colonial cities like San Luis Potosi. Just got a bit of a highway stretch today as we leave San Luis Potosi, and there's a huge shoulder on the highway, but the problem is half the cars seem to be driving in the shoulder as well, so a bit sketchy at the moment, a bit annoying. Stopped by the road to help this guy out using our pump. Let's see how good our tiny little pump is. We're just on this much smaller little one lane each way sort of farm highway today as we head towards Dolores Hidalgo. It's actually much nicer to ride on than the road yesterday and the day before that had a big shoulder because everyone was just trying to squeeze past, not giving us any room. So actually much nicer out here, all the trucks and the traffic giving us plenty of space. So pretty nice day's ride. The smaller towns we stayed in through the mountains were always busy and full of music and food. And while we definitely stood out as gringos as we walked or rode through the streets, we were always greeted with warm smiles, especially when we tried to communicate with our poor Spanish. So final day in San Miguel de Allende. We just left probably the best warm showers hosts ever, and we're just grabbing some breakfast and we're gonna hit the road. It's tamale time. Most of the towns we ended up in were just names on a map to us before we arrived, and we had no idea what they'd be like. But more often than not, we were pleasantly surprised by how vibrant and alive they felt, and we always had fun exploring them and finding somewhere new for our next delicious meal. Big climb up out of San Juan del Rio this morning. Sort of always a big climb out of cities. They set up down in the valley. So a tough start to the day. Out on the road, we're always happy to make friends with the scruffiest of locals. So much so that we even carried a special bag of dog biscuits. The condition of the roads throughout Mexico varied from nice new tarmac, often with a wide shoulder, to some pretty chewed up and bumpy asphalt, as well as smaller local roads full of sneaky speed bumps that caused a few problems for our bikes. Broken rack fixed with the help of these guys and a few spare parts we had. Back on the road. Back on some really nice roads today. We've been riding a few highways lately, which is pretty horrible conditions, both because of the traffic and the roads are pretty chewed up. But now it's like nice countryside riding, nice and quiet, nice views, nice tarmac. Yeah, it's just great out here. The quality of the places we stayed varied quite a bit too, from quaint little Spanish villa-style hotels to highway motels with the options of paying by the hour. Most places we went, there was a pretty strong police and military presence, and while we didn't ever see anything bad happening around us, it gave us both the impression that danger could not be far away, but if it was, help wasn't far away either. The police were always friendly and didn't mind that we ignored the no riding bicycles on the freeway rule, which we had to when making our way around Mexico City, as we'd now decided we'd keep riding on all the way to Oaxaca. We figured that since we'd ridden all the way to Mexico, we might as well see some more of it, and Oaxaca is known for having some of the country's best food, so the decision to keep on going was a pretty easy one to make. We'd heard from some other bike tourers that there was a road leading into Oaxaca State called Route 135 that would take us through an awesome canyon filled with cactus forests and epic views, and that it was one of the best rides in all of Mexico, and they weren't lying. We're about 200 k's north of Oaxaca City now, and we've just taken this road that winds through all these canyons. There's a lot of up and down hills, but it's just some of the most beautiful landscape we've ridden through in Mexico for sure. Pretty quiet road, and there's just great scenery, different cactuses and trees everywhere, and it's just epic riding and a pretty epic place to be. The route was so good in fact that we ran into another motley bunch of bikepackers taking the route too, who were a lot of fun to ride and hang out with for the next couple of days. It's always good fun to meet other bike tourers out on the road, to exchange stories and info and have a few laughs at common experiences. We always leave these exchanges with more ideas and plans of new places to explore, as well as with new friends. We shared our last night under the stars in Mexico with our new friends before getting up early the next morning for our final day's ride into Oaxaca City, where we'd meet up again later for a few beers together too. But not before a small climb out of this hard to reach campsite. After all, the best spots are always the hardest ones to get to. Riding in Mexico had been a great addition to our trip around the world, and a decision that we were definitely happy that we made. While most of the riding itself wasn't world class, we really enjoyed interactions with the local people, the food, and general feeling of being in a country where everyone is so laid back and life is so simple. Despite what you may hear about Mexico, we never felt unsafe here and always felt welcome. We now head over to Africa to ride through Morocco and then on to Europe. And if you'd like to follow our journey, please subscribe to this channel and find us on Instagram @WeRideBikesPlaces.